Good day and welcome back to our literature series, proudly sponsored by O3 School's JAMB app. And for today, we'll be looking at the Song of the Women of My Land. The Song of the Women of My Land. This is a poem and it was written by Umar Farouk Sese from Sierra Leone. The poet is from Sierra Leone. So very quickly, we jump straight to the poem. We see the poem begins with the poem, The Song of the Women of My Land, begins with the poet's use of simile. Now, about the poem for structure, the poem contains 48 lines. So, the poem contains 48 lines with very unique stanzas. Now, for the analysis, the poem begins with the poet's use of simile to compare time chiseling away at our memories to a sculptor chipping away at wood. He means that time makes us forget. Then he again goes on to tell us what the songs are about. That's the song of the women, what it is about. The women basically coined the songs from their experiences, their everyday lives. The women basically coined the poem from their experiences, their everyday lives. The suffering they encountered, plowing lands in servitude, and the songs were all they had. He then goes on to tell us how the songs helped the women with their suffering and their sorrow and pain. They used the songs to celebrate their gains and to find meaning in the lives they led. Also, through these songs, their stories can be told to, generations unborn, so their legacy lives on. But then we see that despite the importance of these songs, time still makes us forget. We forget the lyrics and even the tune. So the poet thinks that the lyrics are dead, just like the women that coined them, leaving an empty, desolate tune. The poet thinks that the songs now only exist as inspiration and source of historical knowledge to modern poets living far from the fallen feet. That means living far from where the women coined them. As against the actual importance of these songs, they are now just reduced to mere sources of history, sources of research. The poet is also one of those modern poets that find inspiration from these songs that are supposed to be passed down. He tries to revive the lyrics of the songs so that the songs will not be completely forgotten. As to him, they are more than just songs, they are the dead of the women's lives. Now we look at the themes explored in the poem by the author or by the poet. There is the theme of nostalgia. There's the theme of nostalgia. Nostalgia means a bittersweet yearning for things of the past. So in the poem, the poet remembers the lives of the women put in songs to be passed down from generations to generations so that their legacy will not be forgotten. But then the poet is not happy with the way time has made us forget their heroic deeds. We also have the theme of suffering. The theme of suffering. The poem talks about the suffering the women had to, endure and pass through, which they passed down through songs that should be remembered. But unfortunately, time makes us forget. So the theme of suffering is evident in the poem, especially in stanzas 2 and 3. We also have the theme of celebration of the African woman. So the poet, the African women, like the women of his land, which is still Africa, they had great qualities that they wanted to pass down through generations using the songs. And he believes that these qualities should be emulated, qualities like hard work and perseverance. Then there's also the theme of cruelty of time. Cruelty of time. The poet sees time as an enemy that has been unkind to the memory of the women of his land. Time has stripped their songs of the lyrics, and even the tune is almost being forgotten. So we see the cruelty of time in the poem. Then there's also the theme of hope. The poet is trying to revive the lyrics, see how it will be remembered instead of forgotten. Then death slash transition. The women live their lives using songs to chronicle their experiences, and then they died. Time is also now killing the songs that they left behind. Lyrics have been forgotten, and the tune is almost towards dying as well. So there's also the theme of death. These are some of the themes in the poem. We look at the poetic devices used. Poetic devices, we have figure of speech, simile. The first line of the poem, like a sculptor. Using like or as to compare is referred to as simile, like a sculptor. We also have like a scorned ghost. These are examples of similes used in the poem. Then we have personification, giving human qualities to non-human things. For example, tyranny of time. Time is not human, so cannot be a tyrant. We have now feeding the verse of poets. Now feeding the verse of poets. Feeding. That means the songs now feed modern poets' verses. So using feeding here is personification. We also have alliteration. Repetition of same consonant sounds next to each other in sentences. Here we have forlorn fields. To tell the tale. See the repetition of the consonant. The tune, tuning the tenor. We see the repetition of the similar consonant sounds. Then we also have repetition. Words like forlorn fields, servitude were repeated in the poem. So we answer these questions on the poem. The Song of the Women centers on dash, the plight of Africans during civilization, the plight of African women in traditional African society, the plight of the slaves in America, the untold story of colonization, the plight of African women in traditional African society. Was talking of the women of his land and the plight they went through. So traditional African women in African society. The tone of the poem is enthusiastic, lament, pessimistic, choleric. The tone of the poem is lament. The poet is lamenting the fact that the women's song that is supposed to be passed down from generations to generation, that is not supposed to be forgotten. The women are not supposed to be forgotten, but time makes us forget. So the tone of the poem is lament. The poet is lamenting. How did the poet explore the power of time in the poem? Time is a compromise of memory. Time is a vengeful agent. Time is a wasteful agent. All of the above. Time is a compromise of memory. As time passes, we forget things. Our memories, our memories goes. Our memory goes with the time. So time is a compromise of memory. The expression, the dirge of their lives, as used in the poem, that's the last line of the poem, is a metaphorical, rhetorical, paradoxical, symbolic. The answer becomes paradoxical. Dirge is a poem composed for the dead, and then you say the dirge of their lives. So it's contradictory, it is paradoxical, the dirge of their lives. Lastly, we said according to the poem, African women use songs for dash purposes, therapeutic purposes, wailing purposes, detrimental purposes, mourning purposes. The poem says, with the songs, they sponged off their anguish. With the songs, they sponged off their anguish. So that tells us that they used the songs for therapeutic purposes. And that's it for the song of the women of my land. All these questions are gotten from the O3 Schools JAMB app. So do not forget to download and continue practicing your way to your dream scores. Thank you.